law enforcement being systemically racist. They're all racists. So what we're going to do is we're going to reimagine law enforcement and basically handcuff our police officers, and we're going to legislate laws to be pro-criminal and be anti-crime victim, anti-public safety, anti-police. They turned serious narcotic offenses into misdemeanors, right? So now whereas you would be taking them to jail, you're fingerprinting them, then you give them a ticket and you're walking them out the back door before you can even finish your report. You're telling them you have carte blanche to go do what you want with impunity, and you're not going to be held accountable for your actions. Mass incarceration, that's not compassionate. In fact, you're not even allowed to say career criminals anymore because that's not compassionate. But let me say this, it's not compassionate to create a system where people are being victimized with increasing frequency. It's not compassionate to incentivize and allow people to pitch tents anywhere they want and to bring their children into California and sleep on the sidewalk. We've lost our way as a country, and we have to find our way back. This is no longer about Republican and Democrat. This is about what's right and wrong. This is about what's good and what's evil. Horrible people that should be locked up forever are being released into our communities. Inmates that believe that they are the opposite sex to be housed with female inmates. Female inmates are being raped, impregnated. Communism isn't knocking at the door. Communism is here. You will have nothing and you'll be happy. And they mean that.
But I'm not happy.
Right.
I own nothing, bro.
Yeah.
And I'm not happy.
We're the government. We're here to help you. We are here to tell you how you're going to run your life. Why don't they want us to have guns? What is their ultimate angle? If we don't put a stop to this, and if we don't have more people wake up, we're not going to have a country to live in anymore. This is so dangerous because they're poisoning the minds of our children that are our future. They're our most important investment. And when you lie to kids and you tell them that if they feel like they can be an opposite sex, that's okay, and we're going to help you transition, and we're going to give you puberty blockers, and if your parents don't support you, we're going to take you from your parents. Just come with us. We take it for granted. We have so much beauty here.
Yes.
But what does the beauty matter if we can't live and enjoy it?
Nick Wilson is a former police officer that retired after 13 years of service due to injuries sustained in the line of duty. He has dedicated his life to public service. Nick founded the Resiliency Project, a nonprofit organization that focuses on first responder mental health and suicide prevention. Additionally, he is the CEO of a public safety training and consulting company where he works to enhance the mission and operations of the law enforcement community. As an instructor, he draws on his experience and expertise to train law enforcement personnel across the state and country. Being born and raised in California, Mr. Wilson pursues the goal to fix the beautiful state of California and is currently running for state assembly in District 53. He is deeply concerned about the public safety, homelessness, cost of living, and parental rights in California. Nick Wilson is a man of God, loving husband and father. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Apollo.
Thank you for your service, first of all. Thank you for everything that you did back then as a police officer, not only, and everything that you do right now.
Thank you.
So, Nick, I would like to start with you being a police officer. So you worked in police for 13 years. Mm-hmm. What exactly did you do?
A lot of awesome things. I had really good experience in my profession in that I was able to do everything that I wanted to do, from patrol to then working in detectives and working gangs, white supremacy organizations, domestic and international terrorism stuff on several task forces, and was on the SWAT team. And it's a great profession, and I was really blessed to be part of it. And yeah, I got injured, retired after 13 years, and I started a nonprofit organization when I retired, the Resiliency Project, which is suicide prevention for law enforcement. We have an amazing team that takes peer support calls 24/7, free, confidential, so that law enforcement officers have a place to go when they're struggling. And they can go to an organization that is trusted, that is comprised of active and retired law enforcement officers so that they don't have to fear retribution from their own agency if they do reach out for help. Because stigma is a huge issue in law enforcement, which is why so many police officers die by their own hands than in the line of duty. And it's a real epidemic. It's a real crisis, very much like our war heroes.
Yeah, so yesterday had this guy, Fernando Arroyo. So he was a paratrooper, and he said that at one time, after 5 years of service, he was in Iraq, he was in Afghanistan, and once he came back to the U.S., after some time, he just took his gun right to his mouth, and he almost pushed the trigger. That's it. But Jesus saved him. And he said these horrendous statistics. I want to say he said that almost up to 20 people every day, veterans, kill themselves.
Yeah, 22.
22, that's the official statistics.
22 a day. And it's an epidemic that really needs to be addressed in the right way. The VA is there for military veterans, and there are countless nonprofit organizations that service the military community, but very few that service the first responder community, especially law enforcement. And law enforcement trauma is very unique, and it takes police officers to understand their fellow police officers and to be able to help them. And so our team, like I said, are really amazing people that day in and day out are on the phone or in person with officers that are in crisis, and we give them pathways to heal and options that they might not have had before.
So as far as I understand, so veterans go in and have those PTSDs because they return home from war, right? But law enforcement, you have some kind of trauma, just like you did. You experienced a trauma, that's why you had to retire. And then you have this kind of a mental health problem, and then when the people like you take their lives out, right?
Yeah, so I medically retired because of injuries to my back and to my arm, but at that same time, I was struggling significantly. And in law enforcement, there's
you
so
mean
much...
mentally? Mentally?
Yeah, mentally. Like, I was dealing with the symptoms of post-traumatic stress, not being able to sleep, and experiencing hypervigilance. And, they don't train you for how to respond to that or how to identify what those symptoms are. So anyone that's going through that for the first time doesn't really know what's wrong with them, and they attribute it to a lot of different things. So it's an entire journey that we try to help others with. And, people think that it's a death sentence, and it's not. In fact, there's nothing more amazing than coming out on the other side and understand that you're in a place of post-traumatic growth, and that, healing in whatever way you are healing. And for me, it was tons of different treatment modalities, but at the end of the day, it was God. And I think so many more people now are coming to the understanding that there's no better treatment modality than God. And it's just an unbelievable opportunity to service the law enforcement community, who are selfless warriors that risk their lives every single day to protect a society of complete strangers. And we do not treat them with the amount of respect that they need to be treated.
Well, we do. We say defund the police and fuck the police.
And that's the problem with our corrupt politicians who have never spent 5 minutes in a patrol car, and that are using dangerous rhetoric to assign blame or guilt to the most noble profession that there is.
Amen.
So
tell me about, so you've been patrolling the streets, right?
Yeah.
Tell me what it is like. So what do regular people have no idea about patrolling the streets? How dangerous it is? In what kind of situations have you been?
It's very dangerous, and it doesn't matter where you work, right? Because you're a walking billboard resembling, law and order, and at any point you could become subject to an attack. A regular day in a patrol vehicle is, there's nothing more fun than that. Because anything could happen at any moment, and it's your responsibility to resolve the problem. So you could be going from you be in your patrol unit, and you're just driving along, and you know, you're looking through the community to see if anything is out of place or there is suspicious behavior by someone that's maybe hanging outside of a closed business at midnight that maybe should be contacted to see if they're engaging in some sort of activity that would suggest that they're going to burglarize the location. And then you get a call of a domestic violence or a battered, let's say, spouse that finally decided that she was going to have enough courage to call the police, or there's a missing kid, or there's a medical emergency. Or you have the intense calls where you have like a burglary in progress in the middle of the night, or an armed robbery, right?
So that's the front line.
Yeah, I mean, you could go from a call that is really just mundane, like an everyday call to help a citizen, to an in-progress call with a violent suspect that is not going to go back to prison, that is armed with a weapon and is ready to use it against you. And you have to be able to have the, not just the training, the experience, but the presence of mind to be able to address that suspect, gain control of that suspect, and take that suspect into custody without injuring any innocent bystanders that might be around. When you're involved in a felonious vehicle pursuit with someone that you know is armed and that doesn't want to go back to prison, and they have an extensive criminal history, that poses a very significant threat to the police officer and to the community. And so being a police officer is the most challenging job that there is, and it's only those that have worn the uniform, that have stepped into a patrol car after swearing an oath to uphold and protect the Constitution, that really understands what it's like. Not even a simple ride-along could ever give you enough information to allow a normal citizen to understand what it's like to be a police officer. Because although it is a job, it's also a calling. And at the end of the day, our police officers live with the realities of what doing the job can do to someone's mind. I mean, they have the highest divorce rate, they have the highest rates of alcoholism, and most cops can't sleep. So after retiring, it's been my goal to help cops to understand that what they're going through is normal, there is a way back, that this is not a death sentence, and that at the end of the day, all of us have to find our way home at the end of the day, not just physically, but with our mind too.
So Nick, hear me out. So when I was a kid, I'm 36 years old. I was watching Hollywood movies since I was 5 years old, something like that. And I was always watching those Hollywood movies with cops, buddy movies, all that stuff, you know? And every time I saw that, the image of a police officer here in the U.S. always in my mind was like, you can't touch a police officer. You can't shoot back, you can't fight back, because if you do, you're screwed. So in my mind, police officers here in the U.S. were always well respected. I want to say a month ago, that was in Washington, right? There were riots, pro-Palestine riots, and they were going at it with the police officers. They were fighting with them, and nothing happens at all. So the profession of being a police officer is under-respected now? Something has changed, or it was always like that?
So, complicated question, but I will say this. There has always historically been in this country issues between the community and law enforcement, depending on where you lived, depending on the time or the era. There's always been a strange component to how communities interact and engage with law enforcement, but really it's influenced by political trends and what's going on politically in the country or in the state.
Yes.
Having said that, the simplest answer to your question is that everyone has always respected law enforcement, right? Because people understand what those selfless, servant leaders do every single day to protect us, and we need them. But what you started to see, especially in 2020, was a complete shift in the political rhetoric and tone that became very dangerous to the profession of law enforcement and to every single community in the country. And you saw it happen almost overnight. And that was that law enforcement is the problem, and it's not the criminal. It's law enforcement's fault for all of society's ills because these politicians assigned blame and basically said there is historic evidence of law enforcement being systemically racist. They're all racists. So what we're going to do is we're going to reimagine law enforcement and basically handcuff our police officers, and we're going to legislate laws to be pro-criminal and be anti-crime victim, anti-public safety, anti-police, right? And that's when you started seeing law enforcement agencies change their tactics and try to become a little bit more aligned with what was going on politically, because who in their right mind, number one, who in their right mind would be a police officer and put your life on the line every day for strangers? One. Two, who in their right mind, especially in LA County or in other counties where you have George Soros-funded DAs, just itching to charge a police officer for a crime when a police officer uses force to defend themselves or to overcome a suspect during the course of an arrest. Officers are charged with the responsibility to use reasonable force to effect an arrest, right? But what happened with our politicians is they emboldened criminal offenders by telling them, you know, law enforcement is the problem. It's not you. We're going to coddle the criminal offender, right? We're going to focus on decarceration with our state prisons and county jails. And, you know, poor you guys. It's the police. It's this institutional racism in law enforcement, which was the biggest lie that was ever told. And what they did was that they started using what's called RIPA as an example of collecting data after every traffic stop. And the data that they collected, they try to use against the law enforcement community to say, you know, you guys are absolutely racist. See, it says right there in the results of the RIPA data, which RIPA, and I'll just explain it real quick. The RIPA data is after every time a police officer makes an arrest or does a traffic stop, they have to fill out what they believe the person's gender was, race, and it goes on and on and on. And what you thought that, you know, those things were before the stop actually occurred. There's no box for unknown or did not observe. Now, if you're working in a primarily, you know, like an 80 to 90%, if you're working in a city that's like 80 to 90% Hispanic, or black or white, you're more likely to stop someone that is Hispanic, right? Or if it's 80 to 90% black, or white. So what they did is they took that RIPA data to say, look, they're stopping all of these people, and it's all, right? Well, that's a lie, and they know it's a lie. But in order for them to achieve what they want in terms of criminal justice reform, is what they'll tell you it is, which really it's the dismantling of the criminal justice system and complete chaos. And they're doing this very intentionally, and they're doing it incrementally. And what people have to understand is that when you have the politicians that are funded by you know, Soros, and you have lawmakers like in the assembly who are bought and paid for politicians that allow big money, special interests to influence the way they legislate, right? It's a recipe for disaster. And when you've got media that's also bought and paid for or influenced by the same people, they're creating a narrative that is not true, it's false, and everyone loses. Law enforcement loses, and the community loses because they're not safe. And as a result of everything that we've seen in the last several years, we're seeing a mass exodus as a result of law enforcement officers that are retiring early, or they're resigning, or they're finding another profession, or they're moving out of California altogether because no one wants to be a target. Being a cop is hard enough, and they are destroying law enforcement, and they're destroying it in California and have been doing it in California first, because everything that happens in California, it's like the saying, so goes the nation. And law enforcement in California typically is known as the most, the best trained, tactics usually travel from California to other agencies throughout the country, east. Technology, weapon systems, everything in law enforcement typically starts in California and travels east. And this was an epic failure. This was a criminal justice experiment that is a very dark stain on our state and in our country. They allowed police buildings in Minnesota to get burned down. They allowed these people to basically create their own camps and cities and neighborhoods, right, where the police, for the first time you saw on TV, are retreating, right? So what kind of message does that send to the rest of the country and to the people who are real criminals? You're telling them you have carte blanche to go do what you want with impunity, and you're not going to be held accountable for your actions. And at the end of the day, people want order, because you can't have a civilized society without order. And the people that are standing in the gap to protect innocent people from bad people are the police.
Yeah. But they're creating the chaos. But I believe they think that they can control it. You can control the chaos. Once it starts, that's it. That's like a twister. Right. It's unstoppable.
Yeah.
They're going to get them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're seeing smash and grabs. You're seeing criminals. Like when Prop 47 passed, I'll never forget when Prop 47 passed. When Prop 47 passed.
That's what, 2022?
No. When Prop 47 was, I think it was 2013 or 14.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so this was the legislation that basically decriminalized crime, right? It brought petty theft, like the prices for petty theft. It used to be under $400. Anything over $400 used to be a grand theft, right? It used to be a felony. They've raised that to like $950, right? They've incentivized drug use. They decriminalized. They turned serious narcotic offenses into misdemeanors, right? So now whereas you would be taking them to jail, you're fingerprinting them, then you give them a ticket, and you're walking them out the back door before you can even finish your report. And what the left says is this, okay? This is what the supermajority in Sacramento says. It's not compassionate. They say, mass incarceration, these buzzwords, mass incarceration, that's not compassionate. It's not compassionate because the law is disproportionately applied to people of color, right? So we need to equal the playing ground, and we need to reduce the sentencing guidelines and the penalties for serious crimes, because it's all these people of color, and this is just not compassionate. Well, let me say this. It's not compassionate to create a system where people are being victimized with increasing frequency. It's not compassionate to incentivize and allow people to pitch tents anywhere they want and to bring their children into California and sleep on the sidewalk. That's not compassionate. It's not compassionate to crime victims, like my friend Megan McCarthy, retired San Bernardino Sheriff's deputy, who was attacked on duty in the middle of responding to a call for service. It was a domestic dispute, family disturbance, where the suspect took her gun, beat her in the head, broke multiple bones in her face, and then tried to kill her with her own gun. Well, because he was, and by the grace of God, she survived that, but because of AB 3070, which means that if you have police bias and you don't like the police in a jury trial, the district attorney or whoever can't remove that juror because of prejudice or bias. So what they did was allowed people who don't like the police to be on a jury of an attempted murder of a law enforcement officer, and he was acquitted. And because he was acquitted, now almost a little over a year later, the U.S. Attorney's Office, in conjunction with the ATF, Federal Law Enforcement Agency, just charged him, brought him into custody on federal charges because local DAs aren't doing their jobs. and this is a serious crisis. People have to understand how serious this is. They have completely flipped the criminal justice system upside down. There's no more respect for the rule of law. There are core principles in our country that we were founded on, including the rule of law, equal justice under the law. And there is no equal justice right now under the law, and there is no rule of law because you have corrupt politicians that are beholden to these special interest groups that are hell-bent on destroying this country, that are hell-bent on continuing to destroy California. And we have to turn this around. We cannot, California and this country cannot sustain itself in chaos. And the amount of destruction that has taken place is frightening. And police officers, in so many cases, are being maliciously prosecuted by DAs that want to make examples out of law enforcement. This is so...
For doing their own job.
For doing their own job. And what they'll do is they'll take video of a police officer using force and say, you know what, that last time that he hit that suspect,
too much.
We think it's too much. Let's charge him for abuse under color of authority, and let's make an example out of him. What does that say to the entire law enforcement community? Absolutely hands off, absolutely hands off. And so, but now we're seeing, the complete dismantling of law enforcement. Some agencies are way more, aggressive in being proactive, and they have very good, solid command staff members that say, look, go do your job, do it right, stay within the confines of the law, and I will support you, right? No one wants a bad cop. No one wants a corrupt law enforcement officer. Those people get weeded out and absolutely need to be held accountable. But the narrative and the notion that there is systemic racism in law enforcement or that all cops are bad is just another lie that is intentionally used to advance these policy agendas and legislation that seeks to continue to destroy law enforcement. And at the end of the day, we're seeing that unravel. We saw it in 2020, and now we're seeing, look at what happened to UCLA. That police chief, unfortunately, should have done the right thing. That police chief who answers to, the chancellor or the board or whatever it is at UCLA, when we saw what these pro-Hamas people were doing, he should have said at that moment, he should have made the most important decision of his career, which was, you know what, I'm probably going to get fired, but I'm going to do my job. Yeah. And officers, go end this immediately so that it doesn't, continue into what it turned into. And he should have fell on the sword and allowed himself to proudly be terminated because he would have been following the law. Instead, he put his own career ahead of what was doing the right thing, and look what happened. And so, I'm very, when it comes to law enforcement, my expectations are high. And I think that's true of all law enforcement officers. We have to have high expectations when it comes to our own. But we need courage. We need courage. We need political courage with our law enforcement leaders and our political leaders to say enough's enough and call out what's really going on so that we can end the madness. Because what we're seeing, Apollo, on TV and what you see every single day out on the street is not representative of who we are. And the truth is, the normal everyday citizen does not want that. They're just so busy trying to put food on the table and sometimes having 2 and 3 jobs that that's all they're focused on.
So obviously I'm a foreigner. So when I see in the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months what the pro-Hamas protesters do here, for instance, what they did in once Netanyahu was here in D.C., so they run the Palestine flags, at the same time they burn the American flags. It's like, what? Can you do that? Okay. They vandalize the sculptures, the statues. Can you do that? Then they fight with the police officers. Can you do that? That's mind-boggling for us. As a foreigner, I was like, I always thought that Americans, you stand up for your country, but you let some guys take your own flag, the most beautiful flag on earth. Take the flag, burn it, and almost pee on it, spit on it, and then to fight the police officers?
It's the most despicable thing I have ever seen. They are desecrating the core values and tenets of what this country was founded on, right? And this is not a random, sporadic thing that we're seeing. It is absolutely sophisticated. It is absolutely intentional. It is pre-planned. And it is not just some random act of violence. And so we're seeing heavily funded groups that are doing what they're doing in the acts that you just described. And it's being allowed to happen. And it shouldn't be. You know, they do this under the First Amendment. And I think it is just, it's such a dark stain on our country. Like, it makes me sick. When I see that, I will say to you, it breaks my heart. Like, it breaks my heart to see the Liberty Bell, you know, destroyed. When I see historic statues, you know, that, you know, represent our country's history, or the American flag that so many people have given their life for, that paid the ultimate sacrifice for, to give you and I the freedoms that we experience every day, to take that flag and to desecrate it, to burn it. You know, I'm sorry, but that should be an absolute crime, and people should be in jail for that. And we've lost our way. We've lost our way. We've lost our way as a country, and we have to find our way back.
But the whole world is watching. The whole world, except I want to say China, maybe Iran, maybe some other Arab countries. They don't watch. All other countries, the Western Europe, even Russia, they're watching. They're watching your movies, they're listening to your music, they're watching your culture, they're eating their food. So burger was never popular in Europe 30 years ago. But now in Lithuania, there are almost every cafe that you can come in, you will see burgers. Fries, burgers, all the culture from the US come to Lithuania and other countries in Europe and in Russia as well. So if you do major, if you screw up here, they're gonna screw up over there. The whole world is watching. And can you imagine you being a CCP leader or just a CCP party member, and you watch how the American flag, your biggest enemy's flag, is just being torn down, burned down? Wow, that's amazing. Maybe we should go a little bit further and further and further with this. Iranians do the same thing from the government, not the regular Iranians, I want to say, in the country, but the government officials, oh, they cheer. That's 100%. But they will never let you do that in their own country. You will never go to Russia or to Iran or to Palestine and take their flag and to burn it down. You're going to go either to jail in Russia, or you're going to get executed right away in the street. In 5 minutes, that's it. You're going to be done.
Yeah, you're right. The whole world is watching. The whole world is watching the United States and what our response is to what they're seeing on their TVs, which is the very slow, intentionally designed demise of our country. And you're right. They are watching, and they're looking for hope, and they're looking for leadership, and they're looking to see who in the United States is going to stand up and say enough is enough, because they know that America has always been able to do that. No matter what has happened over the course of our nation's history, we have overcome the most horrible, most critical, the most important events, good or bad. We have always risen because we have a resilient nation, and the principles of what our Constitution stand for and what that means for the rest of the world is important enough for us to be able to stand up and display political courage and save our nation, because it is under attack, Apollo. And history is going to be a judge very harshly those who stayed quiet, those who did nothing, and those especially within local, state, and federal law enforcement, including the intelligence services, who helped, who did the right thing, and then who was complicit and or who stayed silent. History will judge those people very harshly. And I think that enough people are waking up to what's going on, and it is my hope, my goal, my belief that things are going to turn around. I have to hold on to hope, and we have to inspire each other, and to be able to support each other in any way we can, whether it's hosting a podcast to get information out to reach more people, or to become directly politically involved. We all have to do our part because we have children. We have a future for them that is being absolutely destroyed and desecrated.
Yeah, bro, what they do to the children? Oh, man.
It's
mind-boggling.
It goes beyond mind-boggling. We're watching evil.
So the whole world will never understand the first two amendments of the Bill of Rights. So the whole world will never understand. Once again, either it's Africa, either it's the UK, France, Lithuania, Russia, Iran, they will never understand how can you stay on the corner, just like here, and sell T-shirts with the name "Fuck Biden" or "Fuck Trump."
Right.
They will never understand that. That's freedom of speech. It's unfathomable for them. And the Second Amendment with the guns, Europeans will never understand your love to the guns. Like never. Why are you talking about the guns? Why do you have the guns? Why do you have so many of them, and etc.? They will never understand that.
So that's a good point, right? And I'm sure you living here, you really look at the whole thing now, and you fully understand. And people really misinterpret the Second Amendment a lot, and it's very important that people understand the importance of the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, right? And so the Second Amendment was not, it says the Second Amendment shall not be infringed, right? And so, our founding fathers were geniuses because they understand. Yeah, but they understood tyranny. They understood tyranny. For the first time in my life, I am living in what absolutely feels like tyranny. We saw that in 2020. And, especially coming from a law enforcement background and seeing and now having been exposed to so many different things in the last several years, God bless our founders, because the Second Amendment is the only thing that stands in between the government coming in and being completely tyrannical to the point of us being completely taken over.
Venezuela,
100%. Cuba, right? I mean,
UK right now, no guns.
Look at UK. It's shocking, and not even the majority of police don't even have guns. And that's insanity.
That's insanity.
And people think that the Second Amendment, people say, well, it's for, it can be for hunting, and it can, this, that, or the other. It's not for hunting. The Second Amendment is literally your right to bear arms to protect yourself against a corrupt and tyrannical government, right? And there are constitutional protections that are guaranteed. They give us inalienable rights to protect ourselves in the event we have a government that becomes tyrannical. And the Founding Fathers saw that as a necessary constitutional protection that is now ingrained and forever lamented in the Second Amendment. I personally believe, after everything I've seen in the last several years, that it is only because of the Second Amendment that the government has not completely lost their mind and taken more steps and control mechanisms to lock us down or to do whatever more in their agenda that they want. I truly believe it's the Second Amendment that has saved us from what we started experiencing in 2020.
You know how the whole world laughed when that was 2018 when Putin rewrote the Constitution? The whole world was laughing, like, how can you do that? The Constitution was written, in Russian it was written in 1992, I want to say. So for 30 years there was a Constitution, but he rewrote it in his favor, right? And now he can be president for 18 more years. What a bad guy. Hold on. In 2020, almost every country's constitution was spit on. No free speech. You couldn't say shit on the internet. Blocked, deleted, canceled, canceled,
100%.
canceled. You couldn't do that. Your freedom to speak, your freedom just to go outside, it was taken away. We don't care about the Constitution.
Right.
They didn't care. They don't care what was written 200 years ago, more than 200 years ago. They don't give a shit, especially here in California.
We started seeing for the first time our freedoms being stripped away from us in 2020, and then everything that's happened every year since 2020. And, you know, the reality is that freedom is an illusion. Freedom is an illusion. If you can't speak your mind on social media or in public without there being some sort of consequence, then you are not free. If you have to sue the government so that the state doesn't interfere with the family unit, then you're not free. Because we've already lost our rights. Because what they've done is they are ramming through unlawful, unconstitutional legislation to remove local control and to basically govern without checks and balances. That's not a constitutional republic. That's tyranny. And so it's an illusion until enough people stand up, hold them accountable, and then literally replace them with politicians who are going to respect the Constitution. But as for now, it's an illusion. And we need to fight harder than we ever have if we want our freedoms back. Because we're not free when there's a public health mandate that says that you can't go outside or take a walk on the beach. And it's
How
not
crazy was that?
It's insanity.
4 years ago.
It's insanity, and that's not law enforcement job. Law enforcement job is not to enforce public health orders at the behest of the corrupt governor. And what we're seeing, I mean, this is some dark, dark stuff. You got an attorney general who's absolutely compromised and corrupt, Attorney General Rob Bonta. You've got Newsom, who is honestly the worst governor we've ever had, and you know, all their minions in the assembly that are working at his direction and writing legislation that no one wants. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, nobody wants what we're experiencing right now in California. And you don't have to take a poll to prove that. We just know.
But that's his second term. Someone voted for that guy. Someone elected this guy.
Yeah.
2 times.
Well, that's so. And look. I mean, here's the deal. You have a lot of people who are not informed. A lot of people that just keep their heads down and just go along with the illegal, unconstitutional orders. You got people who are either just apathetic because they don't believe that their vote counts anymore, or you know, there's a lot of different aspects, and I know, and it's very frustrating for me at least, and I think a lot of others that are looking at this going, Vic, this is not America, right? So why do we keep replacing these people if we know that they're not good for our country or our state? The thing is like some people just will always vote party line. You know, we have more registered Republicans in California than any other part of the nation.
They just don't show up.
They don't show up. They're apathetic. They don't believe that their vote matters. And now you're starting to see that in Texas. You're starting to see that in other states right now because people are hopeless. They're apathetic. And sometimes, I'll just be honest, they're lazy. And we need everyone to turn out right now. If you want your state back, if you want to raise your children and your grandchildren in the state that I grew up in, right, and make it recognizable again, then you need to get out and vote. And that should be your absolute primary responsibility. That's your civic duty. That's one of the most sacred rights that we have, is to vote, right? And we have to come together and understand right now that we've got to put party lines right now aside. We got for the betterment of this country, you've got to forget whether you're a Republican or a Democrat and vote for your values, vote for your family, and vote for your future. Because right now we're allowing in millions of illegal immigrants, all right, at our southern border. And yes, a lot of them are coming and exploiting our system that was created by the corrupt administration because they want a better life. But there are a lot of bad actors as well that are here exploiting our system because they want to do harm to America. And guess what? The second we started seeing that millions of people now can just start voting, which is absolutely against the law. And by the way, so is the invasion into our country against the law. Then we know at this point that we have to fight harder than we ever have because we cannot sustain this country or this state any longer. And I honestly, Apollo, I hate politics. I love our country. I love our Constitution. But I don't like politics. And I recognize that we are where we are because we don't have enough regular people that are not career politicians that need to become engaged immediately into what is going on because it poses an existential threat to our survival.
And that care about their community.
You have
to love
care.
your love community. If you don't love it, that's it, you're done.
That's the thing. You have to love your fellow brother and sister. You have to love your community. And you have to understand the responsibility, if elected, what it means to serve your people. If you're elected, there's a significant responsibility that comes with that. And what we know for certain is you take anyone right now that's in Sacramento that is part of the supermajority of Democrats and ask yourself, do they care about me, the constituent, the voter? Do they care about my family? Do they care about our future? The answer unequivocally, 100% is no, they don't. And how do we know that? Because of their voting record. It's as simple as that, because it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. People want to keep the money that they earn, create a future for them and their families. They want to put food on the table. They want to go to the grocery store and not have to worry about how much they're spending in groceries. They want to be able to go to the gas station and put gas in their car. They don't want to be taxed into oblivion. They 100% do not want Sacramento interfering with the family unit or forcing local schools to keep secrets from parents. I've never met one parent who literally has said, I don't want to know what's going on with my student. And under AB 1955, that happened. They absolutely decimated local control. They passed 1955, and it is shocking to me and to so many people who have been following this and have been fighting back on this, like Sonia Shaw and so many others. But guess what? It passed, and no one wants that.
And everybody wants to feel safe. We never go to LA. That's because for me as a husband and as a father, it's just too much of a stress for me. Because once we get out of our car, I have to look after my son and my wife.
Absolutely.
And there are so many homeless and junkies and all those crazy people. I just can't. With 10 minutes, I'm done.
Absolutely. Yeah. Who wants to literally have to worry about taking their kids across the street to a park, or like you said, go park in downtown and maybe walk to a museum, or go take your kids somewhere so that you can create a new experience? But why? But you can't, because every second you're looking over your shoulder, you're looking around to see if there's something you could grab if attacked. It's insanity. It's insane. We are living in a lawless society right now, and the government's fundamental responsibility is to protect the rights of people, and they're supposed to keep people safe. The founders created a government that is supposed to be limited in power, right? We don't have that anymore. We have a government that is abusing their authority, which means that their authority is not just unlawful, it's invalid. We have literally stepped into the times where, because they've abused their authority, it's no longer valid, right? And so in 1776, that was a physical change in order to be free, right? This time, pen is mightier than the sword, and we have to legislate our way out of this, but it requires everybody and whatever means possible, whatever your sphere of influence is, whatever your specialty is, whatever you're good at, and helping to get information out, and not be not have tunnel vision, right? Expand your awareness and understand this is no longer about Republican and Democrat. This is about what's right and wrong. This is about what's good and what's evil. And it's as simple and complicated as that. And we have got to understand that this is the time right now that while as stressful and crazy as it is, God is so good that he brought so many people together like this to have these conversations and to be able to effectuate change. And we're here now in this moment. And it's our responsibility, not just to our families, our children, their future. We can no longer do nothing. We have got to act, and that means getting engaged in an effort to save your state and your country. That's where we are.
So people forget one thing. So tell me whether that was the same thing in the U.S. So I'm 36. I grew up in the 1990s, early 2000s. I remember myself I was 7 to 8 years old. I was all by myself outside. I was playing outside. I didn't have phone, tracker, nothing.
Yeah.
My mom have never worried about me.
Yeah.
Never. I had friends, dozens of us just running, playing soccer, playing basketball, riding our bikes in the city, 5 miles, 10 miles from home. Nobody worried about me. Now, even if I lived in Lithuania, I would never do that with my son.
Yeah.
Was that the same thing in the U.S.?
Yeah, 100%.
You grew up like this?
Yeah, you're actually...
You were free
and
safe.
Yeah, you're making me remember when I was a kid. When I was, I remember when I was a freshman in high school. I'll never forget. We had payphones, right? We didn't have cell phones. I remember when I got my first pager, and you'd go to school. After school, you would be out for hours and then walk all the way home, and you literally there was no instant or immediate communication, right? Parents just, hey, go have fun, be safe, be good. And that's what it was like growing up. Even when I was in middle school, when I was in elementary school, my brothers and I would walk every single day to school. We would walk home. We would go play in the park with our friends. Now?
You would never do that with your son.
Absolutely not. And with my own son, I know where he is at all times. We don't even trust him. Even if we have friends that I think are great or that I trust, I want to be the one that's watching over him, especially when we're in public, because we've gotten to the point now where I'm not going to take a risk and have something happen to my family.
Yes.
I can't.
What kind of society this is?
This is intentionally designed destruction, and it's horrifying. And they've done it incrementally. This started a long time ago. And if people think that this is the end of it, this is honestly just the beginning. Because look at what they've got going on with the Department of Corrections. I mean, I will tell you, the plans that I've learned about that they have in decarceration, mass decarceration, and closing prisons under the Norwegian model that they've now adopted and brought to California. That's a whole other thing, but it's shocking because we're watching every day, and you don't see this reported, but every single day, horrible people that should be locked up forever are being released into our communities. And
every day.
Every day.
Here in Cali.
Yep, every day. Every single day, you've got inmates that are being released before they should be released. And this is because of so many things. I'll tell you something very interesting. I was involved in what was supposed to be a wellness symposium for correctional officers in 2020. When I got into my cohort, there was the guy from Norway that literally does the Norwegian model in Norway. And this, remember, I said this is supposed to be a wellness symposium for correctional officers.
Yeah.
Yeah? Well, tell me how it is that we had in my wellness cohort of what's supposed to be subject matter experts on law enforcement mental health, a BLM activist, and medical doctors that are part of a dual medical / social justice program at UCSF. And under the guise of mental health, they were pushing mass decarceration. So if you think about what's going on right now, there's a organization called AMEND, AMEND, that's out of University of California, San Francisco. And this is the hybrid social justice and medical program that they've got, heavily funded by the NIH. The NIH. So during COVID, they were doing mass decarceration because of COVID protocols, and they wrote, and anyone can look at their research papers and their findings, all that. They also were doing mass decarceration. It's on their website, what their plans are, and if you really go down a research path to see who their donors are, who they're associating with, who they do business with, how they bring their plans to fruition, it's shocking. It'll shock you. And so these people want, because remember, it's not compassionate to hold career criminals accountable. In fact, you're not even allowed to say career criminals anymore because that's not compassionate, right?
That's offensive.
That's offensive.
A criminal is going to be offended.
Right.
Be offended. You're a pedophile, for instance.
Right. Yeah, you
You're
can't
gonna
say
live
that.
with this.
Well, they want pedophilia now. They want to legalize crimes against children, right? So they call them minor attracted. Yeah, so this is insanity. We have to call it for what it is and stop being afraid to offend people.
Amen.
The truth is the truth, and the truth is the only thing we have, right? We've got to stop this insanity. But yeah, AMEND is part of this entire system right now that wants mass decarceration. And guess what? They influence and go with the Department of Corrections to Norway every single year to study the Norwegian model, which will never work in California, but they've now brought it to California. They've rebranded it, I think, the California way. And they basically want correctional officers to play cards and, build nice little, play games with the inmates and play guitar together and make the cells look like beautiful suites, and it'll never work because California has a prison population that is unlike any other prison population in the world.
Hear me out. So if the prison is going to look like this, and I'm going to play PlayStation and play cards with my inmates,
yeah,
and I'm a homeless or I'm a junkie. So in the street, I'm nobody. I have no food and nothing, no shelter. Why wouldn't I go to prison? Maybe I should rape someone or kill someone. 20 years in that kind of prison, that's paradise. You know this guy from Norway 20 years ago? He killed 77 people, Andres Breivik.
With a knife or something, right?
No, he with automatic.
Oh, okay.
77 people were killed. This piece of shit is complaining that his PlayStation is too old for him, or he doesn't have enough of video games, or his cell is too small. His cell is like this whole apartment.
Right.
77 people were killed.
Yeah.
He had to be executed.
Yeah.
At the center of the city.
Yeah.
That's for sure. No.
Yeah. That's and guess what? Just so your listeners fully understand, this is how crazy this is. A lot of this was because of Kamala Harris and others. Certainly.
Oh, you racist.
Certainly, yeah, I know, right? It's certainly Gavin Newsom, where they are allowing inmates that believe that they are the opposite sex to be housed with female inmates. Okay, taxpayer dollars. Check this out. Taxpayer dollars.
To change
our
sex.
Taxpayer dollars are going towards puberty blockers, hormone treatment, sex change operations. Right? Female inmates are being raped, impregnated by these trans. This This goes against everything that we know is right.
If 30 years ago you would make a movie with a screenplay like this, I would say that's bullshit. That's
Right.
that would, this is nonsense. I wouldn't even watch it till the end. That's
Yeah.
BS.
Right.
So right now we see the same thing at the Olympics, right? Two males beat up other females in boxing. So hear me out. So if they let this happen, I, as a husband, beat up my wife, she calls the cops, and I get arrested. But if I say that I'm a female, so a female beats another female, I'm not gonna even get arrested.
Yeah, you'll get arrested, and they're gonna have to be forced to put in their police report inaccurate information that Apollo identifies as a female, right? And then when they go to court, identify, right? And then they have to go to court and they have to swear that they're telling the truth, right? I'm going to say this on your show real quick. Here's something that I just would love to see a brave police officer or supervisor say, we can no longer use these in the pronoun game. We can no longer do this in our police reports because it's our job to be able to write a police report that we have to swear to. It's 100% accurate. It's true and accurate. We cannot perjure ourselves, right? We can't perjure ourselves. So we are no longer going to do that because there's only two sexes, and people got to get, this. We have to get past the this game that's being played here. And this is not to be cruel or insensitive. There are people who truly believe they're an opposite sex, or there are people who truly believe that they are a dog or a cat. But that doesn't mean that they are.
Yeah, that's their perception.
Right? That's their belief, that's their perception. And my heart breaks for them. They need treatment, they need help. But we can't, this is insanity. Okay, this is insanity. And what they've done is they have created laws to support the insanity. Because if you don't, it's not compassionate, right? If you don't, it's not compassionate. So I don't know what's compassionate about creating crime victims because you've decriminalized crime. I don't know what's compassionate about having crime victims suffer because they don't get justice, because criminals can't be held accountable. I don't know what is compassionate about the destruction of our civilization on every street in California, and in so many streets it looking like a third world country. I don't know what's compassionate about having a homeless industrial complex right now that's being funded by our taxpayer dollars that are going to NGOs that are suffering, or NGOs that are getting rich off the plight and suffering of the poor, that are making $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 a year, as an NGO that's supposed to be helping to solve the homelessness crisis, while they're lining their pockets. And we've got homeless veterans who served our country on the street right now. So I don't know what's compassionate about that, or having people that are not able to feed their families or stay in their homes because the cost of living has skyrocketed, literally from housing to gasoline and grocery stores to power, energy, electric. Everything has absolutely gone up. We have record inflation. California is supposed to be the 5th largest economy in the world. We have record unemployment. We have record job loss. We have supported a system of derelicts that are creating chaos on our streets, giving them a free pass because somehow they are the disenfranchised, right? And I'm sorry, but we went through a civil rights movement, and I thought that we're supposed to be looking at each other not through the color or the lens of, not through the lens of color, right? Didn't Dr. Martin Luther King say that he wanted to have his children grow up one day in a world where they weren't going to be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character?
Yes.
Yet all these politicians do, right, is talk about race and continuing to throw race into the conversation. Why? Why are we doing this? Why are we digressing and going backwards? We're not supposed to be judging each other based on how we look, what their social status is. We're not supposed to do that. Yet all we're doing is talking about race, and they're talking about reparations. They've bankrupted our state, right? I've never been a slave owner, okay? And any African American here has never been a slave, and I'm supposed to pay reparations.
In a state that had never had slaves?
In a state that never had slaves, right? So here's the deal. Yes, there has been historical injustices, and all of us should recognize that and call that out, okay? But why are we going back in history and trying to correct history by taking from one group of people to give to another when we're supposed to be moving forward and to accept each other and not allow race to ever be a factor in anything? Yet it is, and that's all we hear about. And the Democrats have lost their minds. And we've got to actually put an end to what's going on because our state is bankrupt. We actually went from a surplus to a deficit, right? It is crazy, right? And this whole like new EV stuff where, you know, you can't have a gas-powered lawnmower and we're all supposed to be driving electric.
Excuse me, what?
Yeah.
Lawnmower?
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, I think it's 2025 or 2026. You will no longer be allowed to have electric or gas-powered lawnmowers, weed whackers, anything gas. Yeah, houses now are built with an entire new infrastructure that is, you know, all it's. See, this is the problem, Apollo. Is this crazy agenda? I was very fortunate to have just met a nuclear scientist the other day, and he's an elected official. And he went through a litany of what this whole environmental thing is with radical environmentalists, right? Who believe that the world is going to end if we don't go all electric. I've been hearing this since I was a kid, and I remember Al Gore once saying, if we don't go all like you remember that? We have 10 years to survive. And 10 years, well, here we are, right? You know, we're still here. And so the reality is that these people aren't stupid. And this is what I keep saying. The people in Sacramento are not stupid. This is intentional, right? So we know that the intentional destruction is something that no one wants. No one wants to starve. No one wants to be homeless. No one wants crime to be rampant. People want to. We all want the same thing. We want to be. We want to be free. We want to live in peace and left alone. We want our kids to go to school and learn so that they're prepared for their future. We want. We don't want to be stepping over homeless people. All right. Businesses. They don't want to be taxed into an oblivion or overregulated with all this overregulation. The American dream is to, hey, start a business.
Yes.
Right? Grow your business.
Own a house.
Own a home. Right? We all want the same thing. We all want the same. We want our kids to be left alone. We don't want an overreaching state. We want peace. Provide for your family. Save for your future. Right? Yet, the Democrats have destroyed that. And you don't have to be a Democrat or Republican to want those things. That's what every person wants. Every person wants to keep the money they make and to be safe and to have Sacramento out of your family and out of the, you know, away from your kitchen table. Like, no, like the family is the most important thing that we have. And this is straight out of the communist playbook. People have to understand history. In the, you know, the communist playbook is to drive a wedge between the children and the parents, right? The communist playbook is to, you know, destroy institutions, destroy faith, right? To take God out of everything. And now we live in a godless.
Take your property.
Take your property, 100%. That's and they're doing that, and we're seeing it. But people they're slow to wake up to, like, wait a minute, maybe this isn't America anymore. They've already done this, which means like communism isn't knocking at the door. Communism is here. And we have to be ready to respond to this by making sure that these career politicians are held accountable, voted out of office, and if they've done anything illegally, intentionally, they need to be held accountable by law. And people have to understand that. There should not be qualified immunity when you're actively engaged in acts of corruption. There can't be immunity for that.
Hear me out. So once you have a business, right, you hire a person and you say, so these are your responsibilities. You have to do this, 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 and that. And he tells you, okay, I'm going to do this, 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 and that. If he doesn't, for a month, right, for a week, 2, 3, for a month, if he doesn't, you tell him, like, what's wrong? Either you do that or I'm going to fire you. But if you're in a government, like, I'm going to do this, just vote for me. For 4 years, they do nothing that they promised.
Yeah.
No problem. I'm going to vote once again.
Yeah.
And even more, they're not helping your company, your business, but they're destroying it.
Yeah.
Stealing the money.
Yeah.
And you still don't do shit.
Right.
You still vote for this guy.
Yeah.
Because they told you so.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And because it's compassionate to be able to give everything you have so that everyone, remember, they want and they don't like capitalism. They view things under, the system. The collective.
Yes.
Right? It's equality of outcomes versus equality of opportunity. Right? Capitalism means we create a system of equal opportunity. We have the same opportunity. And our life depends on what we make of ourselves and what we do, right? They want equal outcomes. Everyone have the same. It's just like, you'll have nothing and you'll be happy. And they mean that.
But I'm not happy.
Right.
I own nothing, bro.
Yeah.
And I'm not happy.
Well, then you better be, because if you open your mouth and you ever say you're not, that's, and then we're going to start to see the social credit score thing. I mean, that's real. That's very real. And you have to ask yourself, because you bring up a really good point, Apollo. So let's say, we have all those assembly members in Sacramento, right? And they're doing things that they know that people don't want and that they know is wrong, right? Make it impossible to live financially, create a system of chaos and havoc, you name it, right?
Just unsafe.
Let's just say unsafe. You take that. Now, the real question is this. How do they do that, literally, consistently, year after year after year, without fearing being voted out of office? How are they actually doing it? I mean, that's the real question. How are they passing something like AB 1955?
How do parents are against the things that Sonia Shaw does?
First of all, I think she's an American hero.
Sonia?
Sonia, absolutely an American hero. My thing is this. I personally believe that there's no parents that honestly, unless they're just bad parents, right? I don't believe there's parents, and I haven't met one, that literally don't care what happens to their children and don't want to know what's going on with their children. Yes, there are evil people. Yes, there are bad parents. But I've never actually met a parent that doesn't want to know what's going on with their children on anything, much less something as important as their well-being, and what's going on with them. So I've never seen that, never met that a person. I don't believe personally that the people that are loud that we see going to war with Sonia or others that are in defense of parental rights, I don't believe that those are genuine
real people? You think they're actors?
I believe that those people are benefiting from special interest groups, and I believe that they're financially benefiting from special interest groups, or if it's not financial, they are benefiting in some way. And so those people, you continue to hear them cite statistical data that says that, parents there's a presumption that parents are dangerous
To who? To children?
to children. If children come out, that's like dangerous, right? Because there's a presumption that they would be harmed or removed from the home, and they're lying because there's no statistical data that shows that. Number one, and all the things that I heard in Sacramento where they cite statistical data that they come up with to justify passing something like 1955 is a lie. You know, where are all the kids that have been killed, beaten, or left homeless? Where are all of them?
There is none, because Gavin Newsom fights for him.
Right.
If not Gavin, they would be dead.
Right. I mean, so this is what parents have to like really look at what this is about. First of all, Sonia and school boards, those are elected officials. Just think of this concept.
Yes, elected by people.
By people to represent them, okay? And those people have had their authority stripped. They've removed local control, right? So let's just take the argument that we're, discussing and having a conversation about out of the picture. Let's just go to like the most fundamental, rudimental thing, that the most tangible thing that we can, talk about in response to 1955. It's a violation of the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment specifically says that parents have the ultimate authority regarding the well-being and education and religious upbringing of their children. There are multiple case law precedents that literally have already been established that say that parents have the ultimate authority over the upbringing, welfare of their children, their education, they literally have multiple case law precedents that have well established that, including the 14th Amendment, which was a constitutional amendment that says that. So on top of everything they've done in removing local control while demonizing Sonia Shaw and others, they've literally written and then passed, signed into law by our corrupt governor, a constitutional law. They violated federal law, the United States Constitution, out, right? Why are they hell-bent on passing 1955? And so, this is very important, I think, that needs to be discussed. People are not well educated on 1955. They don't understand what this is about. They're so busy, which I understand.
Yeah.
They're busy.
2-3 jobs. 2-3
jobs and working. They can't track all this. And by the way, Sacramento's pumping out bills every single day. It needs to be slowed down. Here's something that I think is just, I still can't wrap my head around it, but it's got to be discussed. It's so important. Sacramento has just told parents, we're going to tell you how to raise your children. Sacramento has just said, sorry, we know you're the parent, but we're not sorry. This is how the program goes.
They know better.
Right, they know better. At the end of the day, I think that, I just want to say this one thing, because I think this is important. They say that these are forced outing policies, parental notification policies. When the kid already goes to their school to say, you know what, my name is John, but I want to be known as Jamie or Juliet or something like that, so change my record, right? Well, the parents should be notified about that, just like they would be notified if they got a bee sting or a fight in school.
Like in 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Yeah, this should happen, right? Well, they say, oh my gosh, this is a forced outing policy and you're creating a dangerous environment, right? The only thing now, all of a sudden, because of 1955, the only thing you can't talk to the parents about is whether or not your kid wants to use a different name or pronoun that was assigned at birth. That's insanity. But listen to who we're talking about, the corrupt governor and the corrupt attorney general. And what people have to remember is what happened to Sheriff Alex Villanueva from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, right? Rob Bonta literally interfered with multiple, not just one, public corruption investigations that his undersheriff, Tim Murakami, and their public corruption unit was doing. They were investigating the cesspool of corruption in LA County. And what did Rob Bonta do? He sent his DOJ investigators down and literally take those public corruption cases, preventing them from coming to fruition in the court of law, and then allowed the statute of limitations to expire to protect his crony, corrupt Democrats in the cesspool of Los Angeles that we are all seeing destroy Los Angeles County. He interferes with a public corruption case to protect other elected officials and lets the case, the statute of limitations expire so that those people can't be held accountable. Rob Bonta is so fundamentally corrupt that he went from interfering with public corruption investigations and now intentionally violating the United States Constitution and case law to champion 1955, which is anti-family, it is anti-parent, it is harmful to children, because we know that the best outcomes for children occur with parental involvement, not exclusion. I mean, so whether it's economic, it is public safety, or now to the kitchen table with your family, they've destroyed it, and they're saying, we're the government, we're here to help you, we are here to tell you how you're gonna run your life. That's the reality of where we are. There's no accountability. These people are sick. You know what they've done? They always talk about, when it comes to law enforcement, we need transparency. We need accountability. Really? Really? What about transparency and accountability with our elected corrupt politicians?
No, don't look that way. Look here. Oh,
yeah,
oh.
Exactly. Right? I mean, do we not deserve better? Do we not deserve to? I mean, this is California, right? And there, I mean, we have to laugh about it, right? Because how else do you like process what's really going on? The reality is that this is tragic.
So there is an old TV show called The Shield. Have you ever watched it?
No.
This TV show has 7 seasons, amazing TV show about the police officers and the corruption in LA. So the first season was aired in 2001. So the first season tells you a story about a local LA County sheriff that draws away police officers from certain area. The certain area becomes so criminal, so much criminal over there, it's almost chaos, right? And at the same time, his friends are buying out the property.
Huh.
That's maybe they looked into this TV show and they said,
yeah,
that's a good idea.
A little predictive programming.
Defund the police, right? Maybe we should do something like that. Maybe we should try. And that's only one of 1,000 options that they have and that they do.
So it's interesting. So do you remember during the defund movement when it started, you started seeing the slogan, reimagine public safety?
No.
So check this. They all started saying during the defund movement, we're going to reimagine public safety. Okay. Those same Democrats and people with that agenda were now saying, like, with education, you see, like, at the bottom or inside the California Teachers Association, they have like a monthly magazine that goes out. Throughout the whole thing, it says reimagine education, right?
Programming.
Yeah. Reimagine. They want to reimagine America. That's what they want. And they're successful right now in doing it. And their version of reimagining America is to strip the fundamental concepts that our country was built upon, create chaos, right? Divide people, constantly dividing people, right? They don't want people living in open areas or on farms. They want people to live in high-density homes. They want to remove local control from cities and counties. They want to continue to legislate us to the point of us having no freedom and being robotic. And the truth is that could sound crazy to someone that isn't paying attention, but the truth is that's what's happening. Between 1955 and every other piece of legislation that has gotten California to a place that no one wants to come to on a vacation, right? Because this place has become, it's become like barbaric. You know, we've got people that are just, you know, walking down streets of Los Angeles and Oakland, and they're robbing and stabbing and killing people. And we've got Soros-funded DAs that are letting this happen and not sending a message that we will not tolerate rape, you know, pillage, murder, right? So we are at that point, and look at what's happened. Like, how many businesses have to leave California for people to go, wait, maybe something is wrong.
Maybe,
like,
just
maybe. Maybe, allegedly. Yeah, because you can't be so serious about it. That would be racist and offensive, right? It would be racist. Everything is racist now. You say something that's against their agenda or speak truth, you're a racist. You're a racist.
I can't imagine one thing as well. So if I live in Chicago, right? I'm a Chicago citizen. And every time after the weekend, I watch the news or I read it on the internet, and it says 25 people injured in Chicago during the weekend. And it continues weekend after weekend after. It makes no sense. You have to change something. Dozens of people every weekend getting shot or injured in one city. Not the state, not the country. One city.
So you just brought up like the point. That's everything, right?
Resign, bro, resign. People die under your watch.
Right.
That's a disgrace.
And there, you know who? It's African Americans in those communities that are dying on the street. They're dying in the street. Children that are dying in the street, and they promote Black Lives Matter. Well, as an organization, I will just say, like, I think Black Lives Matter is an awful organization. They don't care about Black lives because they're not there in Chicago trying to put an end to it. And to your point, and I just want to say this real quick, they use statistical data about people who are injured in Chicago or in Los Angeles, and you know what they say? It's because of the gun. It's the gun's fault. And people have to really understand this is how significant and important this is to understand. They try to remove your right to own a firearm or infringe upon those rights. Kamala Harris has already said that she intends on issuing an executive order if elected to president to take our long guns away. And the reality is that it has nothing to do with the guns. It's the people and their criminal behavior that are doing that. Guns don't shoot and fire themselves. And then, just so everyone understands, especially coming from a law enforcement background, like, it's not law-abiding gun owners that legally possess firearms that are out committing felonious crimes and hurting people. It's criminals that are stealing guns that are not theirs and then using them in the commission of a crime. But they're using those scenarios to take
your legal gun,
our guns that are legally possessed, right? Because they don't want us to have guns under the Second Amendment. The question is, why don't they want us to have guns? What is their ultimate angle? If we don't put a stop to this, and if we don't have more people wake up, we're not going to have a country to live in anymore.
But brother, it's already almost boiling. 1 degree more and it's boiling. They want to take your children, mutilate them.
Yeah.
They do the drag queen story hour.
Yeah, that's real. That's really happening.
Shaking their balls to your kid's face.
Yeah, because
dressed like a Satan, like a I can't even describe.
Right.
So they go after your kids. They go after your freedom, after your money, after your mind with all the propaganda They dictate what is true and what's not.
Right.
And then they want to go after your guns.
Right.
It's almost a boiling point.
It is a boiling point.
It's going to explode.
We are there. So, and that's the breakdown you just gave is exactly the truth. It is exactly what is happening. And it should be cause for concern for every single person here. And it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter your skin color. It doesn't matter what your religion is. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter what party you belong to. At the end of the day, we're all here because we love this country.
Amen.
And we need to protect it. And we need to understand that this is intentionally devised to hurt us, not help us. They've already come after our wallets. They've already come after our ability to move about freely without being worried about becoming a crime victim. They have already just decimated our streets and allowed homeless people to pitch tents wherever they want and not do anything to actually help the homeless. Now they're coming after our kids. And you know what? That is right now the hill that people will charge and die on. That is the hill that people will absolutely charge. And it doesn't matter what their party affiliation is, because when you do that and you come after our kids, it's game over. That's it. The greatest honor, I think, as fathers, is that God gave us the blessing to have children.
Yes.
And our job as fathers, as parents, is to make sure that we provide and raise our children the best we can and prepare them and give them everything that we have. And how dare we have a corrupt government in Sacramento that is stripping our rights as fathers and as parents to be able to do what we believe and know is best for our children. That is the hill that we charged collectively. That is the only collective thing I see that is absolutely a mandatory requirement for parents to say enough. Enough.
Yeah, but if you hate your parents, or if you take the route when parents hate their own children, which is described in the Bible, that children are gonna hate their parents and not gonna listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're not gonna fight. Why would I fight for the children? I don't love them. That's a burden on my shoulder. Because of those children, I lost my job, I lost my career, I lost my beauty. Why would I?
You know, I think that the best thing in the world is knowing that none of us really have all the answers, and that we rely on our God, because He has all the answers. And that the Bible it's almost like it's so many things, right? But it's almost like it's a guidebook to tell us what's going to happen. Not the media, the propaganda, but the Bible. And I think all we can do is continue to fight. There's parents that don't deserve to be parents. They should be in prison. But the majority of parents, 99.9% of parents love their children and would die for their children. And the fact that we're sitting here and talking about this now in 2024, it's really unthinkable when I'm sure that neither of us in our entire life thought in 2024 we'd be sitting at a table having a conversation about the government intervening with the way that we raise our children and what we are allowed to know and not allowed to know, all dictated at the behest of the state. That's evil.
But that's such a communism 101.
Yeah.
And Americans fall for it because you have no track record.
Yeah.
So we Lithuanians, we know what it is because we're former Soviet Union. Yes.
Lived it.
My parents lived. He remembers everything. He remembers the times when you couldn't tell a joke about Stalin.
Wow.
You couldn't. Because if you, being my neighbor, you hated me, you could even lie. You could call the police, the militia at that time, and you could say, so Apollo was telling this joke about Stalin, offensive joke. They would come and ask questions.
Oh,
that's the real deal.
So you mean like what they were doing in LA by giving an award for snitching on your neighbor for not wearing a mask?
Yes.
Right? Or getting together in groups?
For example, we live in the Soviet Union. We're co-workers with you, right? But you have the higher position, and I hate you. I want your position. I'm going to call the police and I'm going to tell you. So this guy, he's a capitalist. He doesn't love communism. He doesn't like Lenin, and he jokes about Stalin and Lenin. They're going to take you out. You're going to lose your job. They're going to call your employer and tell, hey, this Nick works for you? Yes. He's not working for you anymore. Those are real stories. Those are real. This is what communism was, but that was communism, I want to say 1.0, maybe 1.5. Then we have China 2.0, right? But this is what they are trying to implement here in the US. That's communism 3.0. This 100 years ago in the Soviet Union, if you had a farm and you raised cattle, you had sheep, cows, and chicken, right? You had your own farm. When communists arrived, especially during the war, they said, no, no, no. Now we have collective farms. Mm-hmm. You have 10 cows, 5 of which you deliver the milk, you deliver it to us for the sake of the country. That's what is collectivism. Mm-hmm. You have no idea what it is like. Read the freaking books, socialists, liberals. Read the books from the people that lived in Soviet Union.
Yeah, no individual liberty.
No.
Right.
No.
And our Constitution says that we have fundamental rights, inalienable rights, which means like from God, right? And we were a country that's born from Judeo-Christian values, and people just want to erase history and forget the fact that we have those inalienable rights, and that it is our inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yes.
Right? And that we have individual freedoms that cannot be infringed upon, but they are. And like, I don't want to be a communist country. I don't want to live like a slave. I refuse to be a slave, right? And that's why kind of in the beginning of this, I said that I firmly believe that freedom is an illusion that was really proven to us in 2020. And I think a lot of people really woke up to a Marxist communist agenda that we're now seeing coming into fruition. Like, I can't believe that we live in a time where the state says what we get to know or not get to know regarding our children.
To drive.
Yeah.
For instance, just what car to drive.
Yeah. Yeah, like you can't, like you have to drive electric. Like you had to save the world. It's a shame. It's
Talk
a shame.
to China. Talk to Russians.
Yeah.
They should do that as well. But you know what people don't realize as well? So with communism comes no progress. You can't tell me what communist Russia, the Soviet Union, or communist China invent.
Right.
Everything that China does, they copy from the West.
Exactly.
Everything that Soviet Union did, okay, the atomic bomb, they say that they stole the technology. Mm-hmm. So they went to space. Okay, so what about their cars? Automotive industry. There are no Russian cars that you would like to drive. No computers, no cell phones, nothing. No iPads, no MacBooks, no cameras. You can't tell me, you can't name me a single company of a Russian or post-Soviet Union company that produces cameras. None. They don't do shit. All they do is copy. There's no progress in communism. I wonder why. Because everyone that was pretty smart and they had some ideas, they went to the West. They fled the country. They fled to the U.S. and here they established the biggest companies that we know right now.
Because
of the capitalism, the free market
you're
enterprise.
reminding me of like words of Milton Friedman, right? And Milton Friedman talked about capitalism and socialism and communism and you know, he went on to say in a famous discussion that the world's greatest inventions were really born from people's individual ideas and the liberty that they had to create the light bulb, and Ford, who revolutionized the automobile industry. And it didn't come from government bureaucrats.
Yes.
It didn't come from the government. These inventions came from individual people who had the liberty to create. Right, and at any point in history throughout the Industrial Revolution or some of the greatest inventions that brought us technology that changed the way that we live didn't come from government. It came from us. And at the end of the day, there is no system that can ever that has ever been able to root out periods of time like the Depression than capitalism. That capitalism has been the answer to every civilization's ability to grow and to prosper.
But not the crony one. Not the crony capitalism.
Right. Right, exactly. But true capitalism, free market,
yes.
Right? The ability to make money and to grow a company, or to have the ability to not have recessive taxes that hinder or that hinder or stunt job creation or job growth. True capitalism and the ideas that are in the free market enterprise is what has allowed the United States to become the most powerful nation in the world. And at every event in history, when we see communism take over, it starts the immediate decline of a nation.
And violence.
Violence, absolutely. And that violence, this is what kind of a system they're creating. At what point do the masses wake up and understand that communism is here? These people, these politicians, whether it's at the state level or at the federal level, that promote this, they truly hate America. They do not like individual freedom. They do not like capitalism, right? And we know that because of what they're doing to ensure that communist principles and Marxism takes over our nation. And this isn't just economic. It is in it is in our social fabric of our country. It is the fight and war against religion. It is the war against the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment from unreasonable searches and seizures by government. We're seeing a weaponized system of justice rather than an equal justice under the law or the rule of law, or how about just the general respect for the Constitution being violated every single day by Rob Bonta, Gavin Newsom, Tony Thurman, people who have no reverence for the rule of law or respect for the people that they claim that they're representing. These people truly want chaos and anarchy, and they are right now succeeding in delivering it right to your front door. And at the end of the day, people have to understand that the only way to make this go away is to get out and vote. The people are so hyper-focused on presidential election, they we're constantly in a perpetual cycle of watching a presidential election. And what they have to do is immediately stop and realize the one thing that's most important. It is your state legislature who has a direct impact on your everyday life, because those are the people that you're electing that write laws, that write legislation in every aspect of business and regulation, and that it touches everything. It touches education. It touches food, taxes. It's your state legislature that you need to hold accountable. And if everyone just polled all their state legislature and looked at their voting record and truly understood what those things meant, they might just get sick right away and understand, like, these people do not care about us. And if we want a future, it's time to get civically involved. I mean, it's our duty to vote. It's our duty to understand. At the end of the day, we got to call a timeout. We have got to. Everyone needs to take a time out and start to prioritize our lives and make this election the most important, because I think we're there. I honestly believe this is the most important election of our lifetime, and it's going to define
not
everything.
only the whole world.
The whole
whole world.
The whole 100%.
If you go full-time communism,
yeah,
that's it. Done. Europe is going to be done in 5 years. Canada is already communist.
Yeah.
Mexico with the new socialist president.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well, I mean, and think about it, right? The United States has typically been the leader of the world,
yes,
right? People look to the United States for leadership. They look to the United States for everything, trends, technological advancements,
culture,
everything, right? but we're leading the world into the ground right now. And I think that people who have been around long enough in this country are absolutely devastated, and they know they're heartbroken. I'm heartbroken. This is so hard to see and watch. I mean, they're teaching kids in school that, you know, you can be anything you want to be. And you know, all joking and kidding aside, this is so dangerous because they're poisoning the minds of our children that are our future. They're our most important investment. And when you lie to kids and you tell them that if they feel like they can be an opposite sex, that's okay, and we're going to help you transition, and we're going to give you puberty blockers, and if your parents don't support you, we're going to take you from your parents. Just come with us. You know, we have a nice, happy place for you.
Just try not buying a new iPhone for your son. He's going to be mad at you, and he's going to tell to his teacher,
right?
I want to be a girl.
Yeah.
Don't tell my dad. He hates me.
Right.
He doesn't love me.
Right. And they're facilitating this and they're encouraging this. And, like there used to be a thing, which still exists, but we don't forget, like taxation without representation. You know, we're being taxed in oblivion, but we've lost our voices. So what kind of system is that? You can't speak. You can't voice concerns. Your voice doesn't matter. The government's just going to do whatever you want, but we're going to give us your money. That's not a republic. We've lost it. We've lost it. So this election cycle is critically important, and it's true of every race. It's true of, you know, the local, state, and federal level. You know. But for people in California, they've got to look at their assembly members and they've got to get out and vote, because I'm not a puppet and I can't be controlled. And if I'm elected, my job is to represent the people. Like, my job isn't to go line my pockets with special interest groups and then tell my constituents, you know, have a nice day. Because that's what our politicians right now are doing.
Do you know how I know that you're not a puppet? Because you came by. You came and you did a 2-hour podcast without any scripts, right?
Yeah.
The other side will never do that, and they never do that. They will never do it to Joe Rogan's, to Tucker, to any other podcast. They will never do that. They will never talk to a person unscripted recording. Like, never. Why?
Yeah, because
you want transparency.
Yeah.
Be honest. For 2 hours, no questions before.
Yeah.
You don't know the questions. We're just having a conversation.
Yeah.
Like, never. They will never do that.
Because they don't have original ideas, because they're robots. You know, they don't have, because they don't care. So they don't know. These people, look, my opponent doesn't even know what Prop 47 is. My opponent is hiding in her basement, sending out mailers. They're not, these people aren't serious.
Bro, who's the president of the US at this moment?
I don't know.
Who is he and where is he?
I don't know.
Iran is almost attacking Israel.
Yeah, we're on the brink of...
Stock market is down.
It's crashing,
Who is the president of the US?
I don't know. I don't know. And I mean that very seriously, Apollo. I don't know who's running the country. Because it sure isn't Biden, and it sure isn't Harris at all. You know?
When's the state assembly elections?
November. It's the same as the presidential. Yeah. Yeah. It's and you know, my race is District 53, and it represents Pomona, Ontario, Montclair, and Upland. Chino, Pomona, Upland, Montclair, Ontario. But, you know, if elected and people say, well, you know, that's a District 53 thing, I live in LA. No, I typically would be representing everyone, because anything I do, anything I accomplish, anything I fight for affects everyone statewide.
You're going to do the precedent. If you fight back here, so he fought in the District 53. Maybe we could do it in our district.
Absolutely.
As well.
Yeah, and we have to help each other. Like, people track, you can track where the money comes from and where the money goes. You're not going to see special interest money in my election. You will never see me bought and paid for. And I want to be more accessible to my constituents and as involved and engaged with the community than the incumbent, who's now termed out, has ever been. I want people engaged. I want people to get fired up. I want people to have hope. I want people to remember that we have a state worth fighting for. I want to see people smile. I want to see people be able to keep their food. I want to see people be able to plan for their futures, for their children, for their families. I want to see someone, people to start going on vacation. I want people to walk down the street, and I want to see their families happy.
You got this kind of a beautiful state, bro. The mountains, the ocean,
everything.
The park, Yosemite Park, Lake Tahoe,
Everything.
Orange County, Malibu.
It's terrible.
Hundreds of places where
It's
you can
terrible
go to.
what they're doing. It's unbelievable. We take it for granted. We have so much beauty here.
Yes.
But what does the beauty matter if we can't live and enjoy it? I mean, really, what is it? What good is anything that California has to offer if we can't leave our homes because we don't have enough money for gas to drive somewhere or enjoy the time off? They're destroying our way of life. And this isn't a Republican thing. It's not a Democrat thing. There are just bad people that are running our state and that have run it into the ground. And it's time that we get that back, because that's who we are. We're to be bold. We're not supposed to cower.
So I love America. I was always dreaming of living here in the U.S. for 30 years. So as much as I remember myself being a kid watching the movies, I was like, I want to go to America, especially to California. And America, to me, was always about boldness, being bold men and women, about the freedom of speech, freedom of saying whatever you want, freedom of enterprise. You can create businesses here. Oh, wow. You can own a house. You don't have to live in an apartment like in a beehive, but you can get a house with a yard, with a lawn. Oh, wow. You see those Grand Canyons, right? Or you go from California to Arizona, you see this road and vastness when you can't even see where it ends. You can go for 30 minutes and you can meet only 1 to 2 cars max. The vastness, the wideness of this country. The sky is so high here in the U.S. For everyone that has never been to the U.S., to the United States, you can't understand what I'm talking about. You have to visit the U.S. The sky is higher here in America. I don't know why. I love the people. 99% of people that I meet here, I love them. When I go to the church, when I go to the groceries, you smile. The cashiers smile. They put my groceries into a bag and they tell me, have a good one. You will never get this in Europe or in my country. I love America. I'm not the only one. Millions of people come to America every year. And when we see that spoiled brats Americans born and raised here hate this country and burn the flag, what is wrong with you? Get out. If you don't, just go out for a month. Go to Africa. Go to Europe. Go to Eastern Europe. See how is it like over there. But they're spoiled brats.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, we have a lot to live for and a lot to fight for. And you have unique experiences that have given you a glimpse into, in your time here, it's caused for your own frustration, because you know what it's like to live in a tyrannical country. You know what it's like to live in communism, and you came here because you thought that this was a better place to be and to raise your family.
Yes. And you know what? So communism ended 30 years ago in Lithuania. We still feel it because my parents that are 50 plus years old, they know what it's like, and then they remember. They keep silent because if you be loud, they're going to get you. My grandparents that are 75, 80 years old, they still live in the communist country because they remember that. Don't be loud. Don't say anything. Don't protest. Don't tell your opinion. You're going to get arrested. You're going to get into troubles. You're going to get into troubles at your job. They're going to fire you. Don't say nothing. But the communism ended 33 years ago. 33 years ago. And it's still the footsteps. The shadow of it, it's still instilled in Lithuanians.
I'm listening to you, and that's like, I wish more people had the same ability to express gratitude, to have gratitude for what they have in this country. I will tell you that it's been heartbreaking because, my parents have now both moved out of California, including my brothers, and they all moved to Texas because they can't afford to live here anymore. And for a slew of other reasons that we've already discussed, my whole family has moved out of this state. And so I'm committed to fight for those who are still here that need a voice. We need to give a voice to the voiceless, and we need to fight for people who just sometimes can't fight for themselves. I spent my whole profession as a police officer defending and protecting people that couldn't fight for themselves. And I want people to get very serious about who they send to Sacramento, because we need fighters in Sacramento. And we need people like you that are going to be able to keep using your platform and your voice and the way that you see the world through the lens that God has given you to help wake more people up and get them involved. Because these aren't just fun moments of talking points and social media stuff. Like, this is all we have left. This is all we have left. And, if not now, when? Right? And I think that people just don't realize what they have, what's at stake, which is everything.
Amen. Brother, God bless you. God bless all your family.
God bless you.
Your kids and your future kids. God bless everyone that is watching. Don't let communists take over.
We won't.